So currently it's about 25 degrees in my house in Belgium where I now live, and sometimes that's too much for hamsters, and probably you also have some heat problems right now because it is summer. How do you keep your hamster cool during the summer? Let's just talk about that. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you love hamsters just like me, you're in the right place. On this channel I will tell you everything you need to know about hamster care and also just everything about hamsters. So if that seems like your thing, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and also hit that notification bell so you never miss my videos. So let's talk about some things you can do just right now. First, most important thing is to keep your hamster hydrated. Always make sure that your water bottle or water bowl is full. Especially for bowls, it is difficult to get water out of if it's already less than half of the bowl, which is why it's best to keep it full. During hot periods of time, I also recommend using a water bowl instead of a bottle because a bottle can sometimes limit the water, the water usage of your hamster, which is of course not good because they need water and they want to get as much water as possible. I've seen some people recommend cold water to give your hamster, but personally I wouldn't because that would maybe upset their stomach. Just give them water that is about like 20 degrees Celsius, just normal room temperature water, not hot water, but also not really cold water either. Next, you can also give some fruit or vegetables with like a lot of water. And these fruits or vegetables can be stored in the fridge so they are cold, for your hamster. Vegetables you can give daily and of course with like exceptions. But fruits you can only give like every 4 days or stuff because they have a lot of sugar. Some veggies like cucumber or just other veggies with a lot of water can only be given like once a week or stuff because of course diarrhea. Another vegetable is iceberg lettuce that can cause diarrhea because there's just too much water in it, so you can definitely never give iceberg lettuce. I have a link in the description where you can look for your vegetable or your fruit you want to give. Another thing you should definitely have in your enclosure is good ventilation. So this should actually always be a thing, your cage should be always good ventilated. So of course if you think about it, a barred cage is of course the best for a hamster, for like ventilation and stuff, but there are some things that I don't like about it. So personally I think aquariums are better for several reasons. First of all, the ventilation is not necessarily worse than a barred cage. Also second, they don't have bars to bite on, which is very bad for the hamster's teeth. It's the stress behavior called bar biting. And also they can't climb on the bars because that will also cause injuries if they just fall off of the bars. So knowing this, some people maybe think that aquariums are worse than barred cages because of the the flow of air. Of course it's not possible for air to flow at the sides of an aquarium, but it is possible from the top, and if you have a good cover for the cage, which means like a cover with like bars and stuff, it is not really bad for your hamster. And also when it's hot and then you're changing for like a bar cage and stuff, changing enclosures is very bad for a hamster because it can cause a lot of stress. So don't change enclosures. Along with an aquarium, also I recommend bin cages. Of course, bin cages need to have a lot of ventilation and the airflow should be good. Some people like to just punch holes in the bin cage cover, which is not the best way of having airflow in the enclosure. The best lid for a bin cage is a lid with like mesh on the top. The punch holes in the lids of bin cages are really not good enough and can cause your hamster to maybe suffocate in there. Another thing you can also do right now is your cage, just not putting your cage in the sun. Of course I think that's common sense because that will get your hamster really hot and their enclosure getting very hot. Something I've started doing since my hamster journey is that I put like blinds, always close the blinds when the sun is at this side because the sun will cause things to heat up very quickly. If you don't have good sun blocking blinds yet, just look for like aluminum foil, what's that called, tin foil or something like that to cover your window. Or you can also buy just like these blinds that are reflective and they will cause your room to heat up a bit slower. Also if you can and you have like an air conditioner or something like that, try to set the temperature to 20 degrees Celsius or 70 degrees Fahrenheit because that's the best ideal temperature for a hamster. If you have air conditioning, please turn it on when it's like getting hotter than 25 degrees because that's already like the limit for your hamster. Also, if I'm mentioning these temperatures, please keep note that I'm using Celsius if I'm not mentioning anything behind degrees. I live in Europe and that's what we use, okay? And if you don't have like an air conditioning, you can use a fan. Just try to not make it to expose a lot to your hamster, like not directly in front of the cage. I don't think really fans work, but you can try of course. Something I really recommend doing is like during the night and also the morning, you can just keep your windows open because then it's more cool. So what I do is just every morning and night I just keep the windows open. Also during the whole night I also keep it open because it is cold. So yeah, definitely something to do. Another thing for people to maybe try is to put your cage not really like near the bathroom, because the bathroom is a place that really gets humid and hot, and usually the rooms near the bathroom will get a bit hotter than the other rooms in your house, which is why it's best to keep your hamster a little bit away from your bathroom. Let's now talk about traveling. So let's say you're bringing your hamster for the first time home, or just in home in general, which I will be doing. Spoiler for my next hamster. You should make sure to limit the time that your hamster is in the travel carrier, and also if you're bringing your hamster home with your car and it's hot outside, make sure of course to turn on the air conditioning. I don't recommend to get your hamster with like a bicycle or something like on your bicycle, because that's not safe. Also, when you bring your hamster home and you're traveling with it, make sure to check out it doesn't have like heat stroke or something like that, because that could be dangerous. Now, with the things you can do right now, there are also some things you can buy and stuff to keep your hamster cool. Of course, these things are not really necessary. If you cannot afford them, you don't need to buy them. You can use the tips that I gave in the beginning of my video to keep your hamster cool. So first thing I really think is very helpful is a granite tile. Granite? I don't know how to pronounce it. It's like, you know, I put it on screen, but I don't know how to pronounce that word. So basically these are like tiles that are stone, and they are very good at heat dissipation, so that they don't really get hot ever. So yeah, that's definitely something you can buy. You can buy it on like RodiPet or something like that, and they are a quite good investment for your hamster. Just put them somewhere in your enclosure, and your hamster will probably be lying on it if it's really hot in your house. Something to change in your enclosure could be bedding as well. So Aspen is better at like keeping cool than, you know, paper-based bedding, because it's just like that. It's like that. But during the winter, it is best to use paper-based bedding because it holds heat better. But during, you know, the summer, it's best to use Aspen. So I like to use Aspen only for part of my cage because it doesn't really hold burrows well. So half of my cage is paper-based and half of my cage is wood-based. Also, something to invest in is maybe just wooden toys or like ceramic toys. First of all, wooden toys is something you should actually already have, because that's better for your hamster than plastic, because plastic traps a lot of heat. There are some like ceramic hides that you can put your hamster in, or just terracotta pots or something are always good for your hamster. So I have to say I don't have a lot of these supplies because it really doesn't get hot in Belgium, but it has changed over the years, but still. So another thing you can do to keep your supplies cool is just to put them in the freezer or the fridge. You can do this with like the hides, you know, the bendy bridges and stuff. Very good way to keep it cool, but you have to do this like every time, you know, it gets a bit more warm, because it needs to be cold. So make sure you have enough toys to swap out, because you don't want your hamster's cage to be empty. So now you have these supplies and stuff, but you still want to be careful. There are some behaviors you need to watch out for. So heat stroke is very common in hamsters because they are so sensitive to everything around them. So when the temperature gets a bit too hot, they could show some symptoms. So I think you should act immediately when they are showing these symptoms. So when your hamster is, for example, eating less or drinking less, that's an important one. If you see their water not moving as much, you should definitely provide more like cool things, and also the food as well. Also, if you see them using their wheel or like their toys less in general, you should check out with the vet. So if these symptoms last longer than just one day, and I think one day is already too much, you should check out with the vet because they could be having something bad going on, so you always want to be safe. So I've talked about traveling, right? And you have to bring a hamster home for the first time. And if you're a first-time hamster owner, there are a lot of things you should know. Please check out this video where I will tell you everything you need to know before getting a hamster, and also something to expect. If you really love this video, make sure to also subscribe to my channel because it will really help me a lot, and it's free. Also, don't forget to leave a like and also hit that notification bell. Thank you guys for watching, and I see you guys next time.